back to Stacie's Corner. I'm Stacie, and continuing on the story of the City of Bones, Clary says, "How could my mother do this to me?" Magnus says, "I don't know. I was just doing what I was paid for." And Jay says, "In the bounds of the covenant, right?" And he said, "Of course." So she said, "How long have you been doing this?" And he said, "The first time I met you is when you were 2 years old. I saw your mom carrying you up the street, and she knocked on my door and brought you in. And at first I thought you were a banshee because you got scratched. You pulled on my cat's tail and got scratched, and you screamed like a banshee. So I asked your mom if you were a banshee, and she just looked at me and gave me this stern look. And so she asked me to see if you can, if I could put a block on your mind or erase something out of your mind, because she saw you earlier that day picking on a pixie in the park, and she knew that you had the sight. And I said I can do something to you where it would not destroy your mind, but block things, like when you saw something of our world, as you saw it, you would forget about it." So she said, "Okay, let's do that." So I did that, and I did that every 2 years, because after every 2 years, it would start fading away. And Clary said, "Is there any way you can reverse it or take it away?" And he says, "How I did it, all the care I put into this spell, if I messed up just once, it would destroy your mind and permanently, and I don't want to do that. And plus, it's already starting to fade away." And she said, "Then what am I supposed to do? I want to remember." And he said that you are already starting to remember. It might come back bits by bits. You might not get all of it, or you might get all of it. And then he thought of something. He said, "Wait a minute, I might have something for you." So he goes over to his bookshelf, and he's looking through some books, and he pulls out this leather book. And Jay says, "Is that the gray book?" And Magnus doesn't say anything, and Clary said, "It looks kind of green to me." And Jay says, "No, that's the gray book of runes that are so powerful that they make these books specifically to hold these really strong, powerful runes." And I haven't even saw or read any of them, a lot of them, and certain people only have it. And Hodge is one of them. He does have one of the copies. So as he's saying that, Magnus comes over to Clary and opens the book in front of her, puts it on her lap, and he says, "Just stare at it until it clicks to you, until something clicks in your mind." So she's staring at this book, and at first she doesn't see anything. She just sees some swirling design on the book, and then all of a sudden something just clicks, and she can remember things, start remembering something. And she said, if this rune had a word or meant anything, it meant remember. And then she starts naming off other ones: grace, sorrow, patience. And then Magnus closes the book. He says, "Hey, you don't want to burden your mind with all these runes. It takes years sometimes for a person to learn a rune." And Jace mentions that, I don't even know all of them, and we are taught one a year or something like that. And Magnus gives him like this pity look, like, "Oh wow, that's just dumb," or something. So she's grateful of this, and he says, "Well, that's all I can do. It might start working faster, but it gives you a start. So if that's everything, I would like to go back to my party before people start eating each other." So they head back down to the party, and they are looking for Simon and Isabel, and they don't see them at first. and they see Isabel, and Isabel runs over there, and she said, I've been looking for you guys everywhere. And they said, where's Simon? And she says that he's a rat. And Jay said, of course he's a rat. And she said, no, he got turned into a rat because I told him not to, but he drank one of the blue concoction drinks, and it turned him into a rat. And then he skittered away. And Clary said, what? Why would you have him do that? You were supposed to watch him and keep him safe. And so she goes over by the bar and looks underneath the bar, and she sees these like beady eyes, and she's talking to him, and she says, me, Clary, come on, Simon. So he comes out, and she picks him up, and Jason looks at him and she says, you guys need to go get Magnus, maybe for him to turn him back. So Isabel goes and gets Magnus, and he comes back, and he says, wow, cute little rat. And she said, can you please turn him back? And he said that he'll go back on his own in a couple hours. It doesn't last, it's not permanent. And she said, well, what am I supposed to do? And I can't just carry him on the subway train or stuff like that. They'll think I'm being crazy and take me to jail for bringing a rodent on the subway train. And they said, put him in your backpack. So she opens her backpack and puts him in there and zips him up. So Magnus leaves because there's a commotion going on, and some things going on over there, and he says, that's it, you guys are all leaving. So the party's over. So they're all heading out, and as Clary is walking behind Jace, this vampire like bumps into her and says, hi, sweetie. And Jace realizes that she's not following him, and he turns around and gives the vampire a look, and it causes the vampire to leave. So they are all outside, and they're starting to walk down the street, and Clary has a feeling that she needs to check on Simon, so she brings her backpack around and realizes that it's open, and she knows she closed it, and she's trying to remember, maybe she didn't or something, but she knows she did. So Jay said, what's up? And she said, Simon's gone. And she tosses the bag to Jace, and Jace looks at it, and he sees that the bag's torn open. So Jace hollers to Alec and Isabel to keep going, and Clary and Jace go back to Magnus's apartment, and they knock on the door, and Magnus is upset that he's being disturbed. And he said, who is it? And he's me. And he says, it's the blue-eyed boy? And he said, no, it's the golden-eyed boy. And he said, oh, you. So he opens the door, and they said, Simon's gone. And somebody tore open her bag. Do you know where he is? Because I know you know what everything goes on in your apartment. Nothing leaves you. And he says, yes, I do. The vampires took him. And Jay said, where is their lair? And first Jay, he said, I'm not going to tell you that. I don't want the vampires to come back on me about it. And he said that you were going to tell us where he's going, or else. And so he tells them that it's at the Vampire Hotel uptown. And so they decide to head out that way. And that's all I was able to read today. I hope you like it. Click like, hit subscribe. I'll talk to you tomorrow. Love you guys. Bye.